So I'm sure many of you are aware of all the hype and the fanfare surrounding the primary in New York 10th congressional district that's represented by Eliot Engel, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who's being primaried by a progressive who's backed by Justice Democrats. It's funny because I've actually spent a lot of time in that district. I have a family that lives in that district. I want to preface what I'm going to say in this video with this very factual observation. Yes, I agree with Jamaal Bowman's policy positions, Green New Deal, Medicare for All, ending the wars, tuition-free college, a living wage, workers' rights, all those things. I agree with Jamaal Bowman on those issues. I also think it would be great if he won this primary and replaced Eliot Engel, who's a terrible, corrupt corporate Democrat, one of those entrenched Democrats that just represent, that embodies the establishment. So, of course, him losing his seat to anyone that is to his left would be good. One of the moments of the race that really drew national attention was when Eliot Engel was on a hot mic saying he would not be there addressing his constituents' concerns about coronavirus and the economic depression if he was not being primaried. Basically saying, I don't give a fuck about these constituents. Let me just get back to DC and away from all these poor folks in the Bronx. That's basically what he was saying. And so yes, of course, Jamaal Bowman replacing Eliot Engel would be a net positive. But at the same time, I feel like there has just been this unwarranted level of hype and excitement around the prospect of Jamaal Bowman replacing Eliot Engel, as if this is the fight to end all fights, and if Jamaal Bowman wins, then progressive policies and progressive politics have taken over the Democratic Party, and Medicare for All, a living wage, UBI, all these left policies are just right around the corner. So just place all your hopes and dreams into getting Jamaal Bowman elected. But that's just not the case, and it's just lacking people who are acting this way. It is just completely lacking all context of the current political climate and the dire situation that we're in. And I think part of it is just some people on the left are so desperate for a win, especially after the endless list of losses that we've taken over the last few months. Bernie Sanders shitting the bed, losing the primary to Joe Biden, him coming out endorsing Joe Biden, shaming his own voters and shaming everybody else who don't want to come out and vote for a corrupt war criminal and who's promised to veto Medicare for all. All the progressives voting for the CARES Act and all the corporate bailouts and all that stuff, not standing up to Nancy Pelosi. I feel like some people on the left are just so desperate for a progressive win that they are hyper focused on this and projecting to make it bigger than it actually is. And you guys know me. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that all the nonsense, all the hot air, the horse race aspect of all of this, which progressive might beat incumbent Democrat or symbolic wins, and the spectacle of all of it, all of that comes secondary to what this means as far as moving or getting closer to implementing lefty policies. So if you ask the question, how much does this actually get us closer to implementing those lefty policies? The answer is, it doesn't really get us that much closer. And that's just the reality of the situation. And like I said at the beginning of this, I agree with Jamaal Bowman on most policy. But I have been fairly unimpressed with his critiques of the Democratic Party at large. In fact, I haven't really seen him critique the Democratic Party, the leadership of the Democratic Party. He seems to focus on all his energy on Eliot Engel. And partly that makes sense because, he's running against him in the primary. But at the same time, just replacing Eliot Engel will not get those policies that Jamaal Bowman says he supports. Because once you replace Eliot Engel, now you have to go up against the entire Democratic establishment. And to this point, he has not convinced me that he has the backbone, he has what it takes to call out and take on the Democratic Party head on. So the rhetoric's nice. You can say you believe all these nice policies, but if you're not actually going to do what it takes to fight and get those things passed, it doesn't really mean anything. Right now, we have a record amount of progressives in Congress, lefties supporting Medicare for all, a living wage, ending the wars, cutting the military budget, tuition-free public college. We have a record number of lefties in Congress who support those things, who are against corporatism and money in politics and the corruption in the Democratic Party, the corruption in the entire political system. Record number of politicians, lefties, who support those things who are in Congress. And what have we gotten to show for that? Absolutely nothing. No wins on any major lefty policies. In fact, there hasn't even been a fight for those things. You have AOC, who was in a very comparable situation to what Jamaal Bowman is, poster child of the Justice Democrats for her election cycle, taking on a powerful incumbent Democrat chairman, one of the highest ranking of Democrats in Congress, for a huge, unprecedented political upset. We got all of that in AOC, and then what did she do when she comes into Congress? She votes for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House, doesn't even attempt to force a actual left-wing challenger to Nancy Pelosi, falls in line, votes for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House, and all the corporatism that ensued was to be expected, and she voted for her anyway. No attempt to bring major policy issues like Medicare for all to the floor for a vote. No attempt to pressure the Democratic leadership in any direction, really. In fact, she goes out of her way to not criticize the Democratic Party, even though they're the ones who control the House. So her and all these other Justice Democrats are known for this insufferable political theater that they put up, where we all know the Democrats control the House, but they do this weird thing where they only blame Republicans for not doing the lefty policies they claim to support. And really the best way for me to describe that is it's basically like they're shadowboxing. They're recording a video of themselves shadowboxing and like, oh, look at me, I'm so tough, I'm taking on the big guys, yeah. But in reality, the Democratic Party, the leadership of the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi is sitting in the ring waiting for you to get in and throw some real punches, but they don't want to do it. So we're getting a lot of grandstanding from the elected progressives that we already have, and none of them actually standing by the principles and putting up a fight to get the policies that they say they support. More than that, you have AOC and all the other Justice Democrats fall in line, lockstep, in unison to endorse and campaign for Joe Biden, the chief architect of neoliberalism and corporatism in the Democratic Party. On foreign policy, you have AOC and some of these other progressives in Congress, at best, silent on heinous war crimes and imperialist actions that we're doing. Worst case scenario, like in Venezuela, actually supporting the U.S. neocons and imperialists trying to overthrow a democratically elected government. That's what we got out of AOC, the poster child of the Justice Democrats, the firebrand lefty that we just elected to Congress. That's what we're getting out of her. And of course, but if you just cancel out every other thing that I just mentioned And we want to just talk about what recently just happened with the passing of the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, and all these other corporate bailouts. That alone right there tells you everything you need to know about AOC. She'll do all the grandstanding speeches. She'll wave her fist on the floor of Congress and yell at the Republicans for giving trillions of dollars to corporations and the richest people in the country and giving scraps to everybody else. But she won't say anything about the Democratic Party and how they were instrumental in getting that passed. And at the end of the day, she voted for it. She voted for all these corporate bailouts that she's railing against. So this is what we've gotten when we elected corporate Democrats, when we elect progressives. This is what happened when we sent them, after they've primaries from the top corporate Democrats in the House, and they won their primaries as these strong lefties. This is what we got. So I don't understand, like, is this amnesia? Is it just delusion? Are they being obtuse on purpose? Like, I don't understand why so many people on the left are this infatuated with the possible election of Jamaal Bowman, as if this is the answer to all of our problems. It's not. He'll just be another one of the many progressives who get steamrolled by Nancy Pelosi and won't put up any kind of fight, and he'll go along and vote for, if he was in the same position, very likely will continue to vote for multi-trillion-dollar corporate bailouts while giving crumbs and scraps to the regular people. So this isn't like, I get the spectacle of it. A progressive challenging an incumbent corporate Democrat and winning in a big upset. I get the spectacle of it. But let's just keep it all in perspective and understand what this actually means. Jamaal Bowman isn't going to be a game changer. I hate to break it to everybody. Don't want to sound like a hater. Don't want to sound like I'm being like I'm just shitting on any and everything that the left's trying to do. No, I'm just being real. I'm being honest. What we've seen is electing one progressive here, electing one Justice Democrat there. It isn't going to do what a lot of people think it is in terms of moving the needle and actually getting us to left-wing policies, UBI, Medicare for all, living wage, all the other the necessary policies to address the climate crisis, to address the pandemic, to address the economic depression that we're in, the worst economic crisis in history. All these little baby steps and minor wins and minor victories, they're not going to get us to where we need to go. So, I mean, I wish him well. I hope he wins this primary, like I said many times over. But let's just be real about what it actually means. What's actually going to happen after he wins his primary. And what we've learned from these protests that have been going on for the last 3 weeks now is we get more done in the streets than these handful of elected progressives get done in Congress. That should be the main takeaway for everyone. So let's just cool it with the Jamaal Bowman hype and acting like this is going to overturn the entire political establishment, because it's not.